Hi, are you fine? I think you are fine. This is part 5 of modern English questions for grade 12. So let's start. The questions, please. The question is basically focus on relative pronouns, reported speech, and active and passive voices. So you have to just bring your attention in terms of these lessons. How much you are ready to answer the questions and how much you are really sensitive to know more about these grammar aspects. So the first question, the man blank interviewed me seemed friendly enough. So the questions are the choices are who, which, and whom, and whose. So to answer the questions, you first depend the subject of the sentence. This is a man, which is called person. Yeah, this is a person. If and only if the subject is about person, which relative pronoun touches or talks about the person. That's who talks about person, and whom is true, and whose is true, but which is not related with the subject, the man, because it talks about things and animals, so it is out of the choice. So here, the second parameter that we use to identify the correct relative pronouns from the given alternatives are here, interviewed. What kind of part of speech it is? Interviewed, which is called a verb, yeah? If it is a verb, there is something behind the word interviewed. That thing was subject here. The subject may be he, or you, or maybe they. If and only if the subject is about this one, which relative pronoun do you think substitutes instead of this subjective case? Is he who, or whom, or whose? These are not the correct word, but this is the correct word, which means these relative pronouns, it talks about, or it refers about person, and we can use who instead of the subjective cases of personal pronoun, he, she, we, they. And also, the word after the blank space is always a verb, so the correct relative pronoun is who. This is the way you answer the relative pronouns. One, what is the subject? And then, what is the word after, what kind of part of speech after the blank space? These are your focus areas, all right? If you focus on these two parts, you simply answer which is the correct answer to complete for the question, so you have to just answer without any doubt. This is the way. Second question, because here, let me come back to again here, and whom is also person. If it talks about person, but it is subjective case. Subjective case means the person whom I know is a teacher. The doctor whom I meet is my neighbor. And the woman whom I know, whom I meet yesterday was my sister. So we can use whom here. If we use whose, it also refers about persons, things, and animals. But we use this whose for in place of his and her, she's, theirs, our, my, your, possessive adjectives, and it is followed by a noun. For instance, the woman whose husband died in a car accident with my neighbor. The teacher whose book he gave me yesterday was my uncle. Whose book by itself is a noun. Whose is appropriate to complete for this statement. And the other one, the boy whose mother, look here, the boy whose mother works in private college is my aunt. The boy whose mother is a noun, that means his mother, it means. So instead of writing his, we can substitute whose, because it shows possession, belonging, and followed by a noun. So in this case, mother by herself is a noun. So the appropriate relative pronoun here is whose. So we can use whose, but the similarity between whose, whom, and who is both all the subject talks about person, but the structure of the sentence is varied, it means. So we can use whose, who, and whose, whom on this way, please. And the other which, if the subject is about things, which is different from person, things, animals, and objects, we have better use which, so which is different from the rest relative pronoun. So this is the approach of answering the questions if the question is a kind of relative pronoun. Otherwise, You will be in confusion unless you identify what I am saying now. The second question, Abel said, we went for a summer trip. This is a reporting statement, all right? Or direct speech. Simply, the distractors are not written here, and to save time and energy. So how can you just report this question to a third person? We went for a summer trip, yeah. And there was a video which talks about reported speech. You have to just come back to and revise the lesson. Yes, we went for a trip, yeah. Before we change direct speech into indirect speech, first the pronoun changes, the tense changes, the time adverb changes, the adjective changes. In this case, the pronoun also changes into another pronoun. This tense is changed, and the other is not changed actually. So you can report this sentence on this way. Abel says that, look here, Abel says that he, because the speaker is Abel, so it can be represented with third person singular pronoun, he. So this one is simple past. If the direct speech is simple past, so we had better convert it to the past perfect. So he had been a summer trip, yeah? A summer trip. This is all right. Reported speech form of we went for a summer trip, yeah. So we have changed it here. One is a pronoun because the speaker Abel here, and second tense changed because the direct speech here is simple past. So we convert this into the past perfect. So this is the reported speech, but the first one is the direct speech. So we convert this direct speech into indirect speech on this manner. If you change only the speaker, not change it for the tense, it's not a kind of converting direct into indirect speech. So have to all the necessary things should be converted, should be changed whenever you report into a third person, all right, or another person. This is the approaches of reporting direct speech to an indirect speech. Well, let's come to the third question. The car Blanco's stole belonged to my partner. The same question with question number one. This is relative pronoun. So as I told you before, the sentence talks about, which is a kind of objective, which is cares. So we cannot use when. When is not a relative pronoun. This is not a relative pronoun, but that and which are relative pronoun. Yeah. So the right answer here is which, because it talks about object. The car which was stolen belonged to my partner. But sometimes that has the same meaning with which and who. But in this case, that is not the appropriate relative pronoun because this is a verb and that doesn't follow with a verb. So because of this reason, doesn't complete the question. Look, if the question looks like on this way, the car, he was stolen. If it is like this, the car, he was stolen belonged to the manager, belonged to my partner, actually it is possible. So it is always preceded with subjective case of the personal pronoun, not a verb. From these problems, the right relative pronoun should be what? Which, right? Which. This is the third question. This is also a kind of reported speech. He said that he belonged the sea bus, the following bus. He will catch. He catched, he is going to catch, he would catch. Look here. All the distractors here are given some are direct and some are indirect. Some are not reported and some words are not reported here. But in this case, there is a clue which the sentence is reported to another person. Best the following bus. Yeah, this is. When we say the following means tomorrow, yeah? If it is tomorrow, it can be reported by saying what? The following bus or the following day, all right? The following day, not bus here. The following day. So from this extent, from this clue that I got from the sentence, so I understand that the sentence should be completed with past voice. That's true. All right? That's true. If I usually read this 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, I cannot answer the question unless I am intended to identify what information do I get from the sentence, and then I'll just in a position to answer the correct word from these alternatives. This is the approach here. As I explained, the following day should be, it is ways of reporting from direct speech to indirect speech. So the answer should be what? Would catch the sea, but the following day is the right answer, please here. Will catch, which is direct speech, simple past, and this is the present continuous, and this is the conditional. So this must be written as, look here, he said he will catch the bus tomorrow. Here, he will catch the sea bus tomorrow. He will catch the sea bus tomorrow. So it can be reported that he would catch the sea bus the following day. True. Number 5, only half of the exercise blank so far. Still, this question is different from the rest one, which is active voice or passive voice, or not reported on relative pronoun here. Only half of the exercises. Only half of the exercises, yeah. This is not the subject of the sentence, but this is the receiver or the object of the sentence. If you talk about or if you deal about the object of the sentence, you always focus on the passive voice. Really, only half of the exercises. This is not the doer of the action. It is the receiver of the action, because it doesn't touch or it doesn't do the activity by itself. But this is the activity by the activity itself. If I understand this is the activity itself, so it must be completed with passive voice, one. And the other one, we cannot identify the subject here. The subject is not clearly identified here. Absolutely, the exercise, which is not the subject. If you identify the subject here, he, the teacher, the boy, the doctor, the engineer, which is active voice, but in this case, this is not direct statement of the subject, so it must be really completed with passive voices. From this essence, this is not the forms of passive voice, and this is passive voice. This is not passive voice, and this is also passive voice. Yes, from this one, which one do you think is the answer? This one and this one. You have to just come close to the correct answer by rejecting irrelevant distractors from the given ones. Here, only half of the exercises have been done. Were done. So the answer is what? Have been done so far, because this shows about the past perfect, it means. All right? So I can simply answer in this way. Number 6. Ram asked me where I worked has similar meaning with. It means that where I worked, which is reported. To guess this reported statement, what is the original sentence? What is the original question it means? All right? Similar meaning means this is the report. It should be reported to another person. But what is the original question it means? All right? What is the original question to guess this report? Where I worked, yeah. Where do I work? So where I worked means this is past tense. So the original sentence should be simple present. This is simple present. This is simple present. Yes. Where do I work? If it is where do I work, this is not the reported form. Tense cannot be changed, so this is not the answer. Do you work? This is yes no question. Yes no question, but the response here is not yes no question, but it is what? WH question. So WH question and plus subject and plus verb, it is direct statement, it means. So here, where do you work? So this one is pronoun, so it must be report I, and this one is work, which is past tense, worked. So this must be reported, where do you work? The teacher asked me where I worked, all right? The teacher asked me where I worked. So the right answer here is true, because of the reason that I'm explaining at the time being. So this is direct or reported question. You have to just read the lesson and listen the audio or the YouTube channel, direct questions. So you have to just answer the questions if such kind of question will appear to your final exam. Number 7, the same question with number 6. Where is it, Mary? Where is it? This is WH question or direct question. So you are going to report one of the following statements. Mary said where it is. Yeah, is it possible? Well, this is simple present tense and WH question. So it is the reverse. It means WH question plus subject plus verb. So tense must be changed. Pronoun must be changed. In this case, nothing has been changed. All right? Nothing has been changed. So this is not the answer. And Mary asked where it was. Yes. Mary asked if it was there. This is asked, and this is a conjunction if. The reporting question is yes or no. So we have to use if or whether as a conjunction. But in this case, this is not a yes or no question. Rather, it is WH question. So this is not the direct statement. So the answer here is what? Mary asked where it was the right response. All right? Because of the reason as I am telling you now. Otherwise, it's quite difficult. Similarly, simply by reading 10 times this type of question. Yeah. And number 8, the moment Blanca knows a doctor. Yeah, still the question is still a relative pronoun. So I explained the different use of relative pronoun. From that, the correct relative pronoun is here, which is not, and whose is not, and that is not, because this is subjective case, and the correct conjunction here is home. Yes. And the last, number 9, milk in the morning is, yeah, milk. I'm talking about milk, which is not the door of the action, or which is not interrupted to the subject, but rather it focuses on the object or receiver of the sentence. This doesn't do an activity by itself, but it must be done, all right? Someone does this one, so it is totally focused on receiver, so it must be completed with passive voice. Yes. After analyzing on this way, which this structure is written passive voice. This one is passive and this one is passive, which in a short time, yes? But A and D are passive voice. But this is an uncountable. If it is uncountable, it doesn't have a singular and plural form. If it doesn't have a singular and plural form, this is not the answer, but the answer is what? Is delivered in the morning. Yeah, no doubt to answer the question, but it needed some kind of analyzing. What kind of question is this? Is this active and passive? What is the subject of the sentence? After thinking, you simply understand and read the question very well. The last question. I came here last week, he said. I came here last week. This is the direct speech. So you are going to just report the direct speech into a reported speech here. So as I explained before, subject of the sentence, pronoun must be changed, and then tense can be changed, and the time expression must be changed. So these 3 things must be changed to report to another person. So here, he says that the speaker here is he, so it must be converted. I must be changed into what? He. Yeah, because it depends on the speaker of the sentence. He came here is simple past tense, so it must be converted into had come. Yeah. Had come, because this is past perfect. He had come here. Last week is time adverb, so it must be reported into the previous week. Yes, the previous week. So this is the correct reported speech forms of the question. I came here last week. He said that he had come here the previous week. Or he says that he came here the previous week, which is special for simple past. So we have 2 ways of converting into reported speech. One we can write as simple past, and the other we can report this simple past into past perfect. So these are the approaches of converting this direct speech into reported speeches. On the whole, these 10 questions refer about 3 lessons. One is the relative pronoun, second is the reported speech, the third one is the active and the passive voices. You have to just make ready, and it makes you to aware, to make ready, to be successful and productive. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. This is Teacher Kabada from Family English Language Improvement Center.